I'm so tired of people saying that it's just a movie, it's just a comic book, it's just a TV show. No, it's not. Stories are the building blocks of our culture, of ourselves, even of our own psychology. We are a product of the stories we tell ourselves about our own past and the experiences on a daily basis, but also the stories that we choose to spend time with. What types of values, our feelings, or whatever are they promoting? What types that we like to spend our time around? They're going to shape us. They're going to shape our personality and character, and they're going to shape our perception of the world and the acts and behaviors that we put out into the world. And people don't understand that. They go, it's just a movie. It's just this. I can like and promote whatever I want. Well, of course you can, but you should pay attention to the responsibility that you have.
Consume stories responsibly.
As a member of society, as a human being, responsibility to yourself.
Consider the consequences.
You need some balance. You need some certain criteria that is going to make sure you're promoting the right kind of works, or at least have thought through the type of work that this or that story is going to do in our culture, and then make your own decision whether or not that's something you want to support.
Consume stories responsibly. Consider the consequences. Consume stories responsibly.
Hello everyone, I am Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to what's going to eventually be another book study stream. Tonight we are just introducing the topic, so I'll get to that. I do have my faithful co-host standing in the wings here. I'll bring in just a moment. But it's a new night for them, so we'll see how these go. We'll introduce and talk about all of that in a moment. But first, before I get into it, let me just address the elephant in the room. Yeah, my video got taken down last night, and I am going to rant about that quite a bit in my live stream tomorrow. So if that's what you're tuning in for, wait till tomorrow night. I've got a lot to say about that. I have appealed it and challenged it, so we'll see what happens. Because it's ridiculous. Because all the content's still right there in the live stream anyway. It's clearly just typical progressivist bullying. We don't like that you don't agree with us, and we don't have any kind of logical argument to make. Therefore, we'll call you filled with hate and cancel you. Typical, right? So keep fighting the good fight. I certainly will. But in the meantime, tonight we are going to start talking about this summer book study that we're going to do. But before I get into that, and go into details, let me go ahead and introduce my my trusty co-host for these. Welcome, Darth Sever.
Hello, Professor. At last we meet again.
welcome back. Good to be back doing these.
Back to the books of some of my greatest heroes in the dark annals of the galaxy.
It's oh, by the way, I should mention that Alyssa's still around in the background there, so if you hear a squeal or something like that, or hopefully she should be okay with me hanging out here for a while, but I might get called away, but hopefully it'll be okay. She's doing so much.
If she gets too upset, may make her a Padawan.
I don't think the dark side calls them Padawans, Darth.
Well, we could always
apprentice.
think that she's one. I know an apprentice. I'm just saying. I haven't been on here in a long time. Leave me alone.
It's been a while. I know. So it is good to be back doing these. It is a new night, and I know that we had been doing it Tuesday night, which I think, in all honesty, probably worked better for Al. But it just was kind of a problem for me because I've got those two hallowed nights there to do my own work and whatnot. And Tuesday, the book study, that was one of the things that was kind of burning me out on doing them before, is like Tuesday night was just a night I had to kind of collect my thoughts and veg. And when I had to do the study, it was just kind of becoming a problem. Alyssa's doing a lot better with me on stream. So I might, throughout the course of the summer, I might get called away a time or two, but it shouldn't be a big deal. But Al and I were talking, and Al, you are going to do occasionally. Al is going to do some rewatches on Fridays, right?
I wanted to talk about that.
Sure.
I was considering doing one next week, which is why this would start in 2 weeks, which I'm still planning to do. I haven't asked this gentleman to actually do it yet. Deleted scenes, many of you know. I was thinking about doing Friday night rewatches once in a while on the off week when it's not my Saturday. If that for those who follow the Saturday night rewatches might know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm on every other week, and There's Network does it the alternate week.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of doing a rewatch every now and then on a Friday. That's not my week. Just content, have fun. Films with friends is always good. It's always good.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's why it's 2 weeks. Though nothing's 100, it's not 100%. But I was still thinking once we get started, we can go week to week. I don't, like I said, there's nothing set in stone. But if every week is good for you, it's good for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm easy going about it. I don't mind at all if we bump a week here and there and stuff like that. It's no big deal.
Things happen as we always know.
Yeah. No worries.
But I just wanted to let you know that. Yeah, I was going to try to do something next week, but after that, we can go week to week to week. We don't have to go every other week.
Sure, we'll take it.
Yeah, because it gets kind of like I forget what was in the chapters after a certain amount of time.
That's true. Yeah, can't wait for so long. Hang on. What do you want, Alyssa? Oh, you want some tape? I thought I just gave you a whole roll of tape. I don't know. Go look in the bathroom. You'll find it there in the usual spot. That girl, she's got this sensory processing thing that she likes the tearing of tape and the stickiness of it, and she likes just like taping up her books all over the place.
Has she ever found the joy of putting glue on her hand and like letting it dry and then peeling it off?
I don't remember doing that. Yeah, I remember doing that. Yeah,
that was awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
Elmer's glue.
It's in the gray bag in there. You see it? Trying to avoid having to get up and go do this for her, but she should be able to find it. But yeah, she so I just go to the Dollar Tree and just get a ton of the little, Scotch tapes and get that for her.
I'd love to go to a Dollar Tree.
My tape. Hang on, let me go get it. Give me a second now. Actually, while we're doing this, if you want to chat about
I'll promote my channel.
What you're doing on your channel. I'll be right back.
Well, if everybody knows, I like to do reviews, rewatches, and rambles. In fact, I just dropped tonight my 10-word review of Spider-Man Into the Multiverse, whatever it's called, that new Spider-Verse movie. Had a chance to watch it, got 10 words on it. I could have used more words, but I didn't feel like writing a big, long review. Tomorrow night on my channel, I'm going to be rewatching at 10 o'clock an old classic comedy Western called Support Your Local Sheriff, which is a favorite of mine. I'm doing 2 of those films of James Garner's comedy Westerns. In 2 weeks from tomorrow, I'm going to be doing Support Your Local Gunfighter. And if all goes according to hopefully my plan, next Friday night, me and Deleted Scenes and maybe somebody else, if I could find even another co-host, will hopefully be watching the classic 80s sword and sorcery film, The Sword and the Sorcerer.
Not the one that you made us watch on your birthday.
That was Dragon Slayer, and it is a classic.
It wasn't a bad movie. It was just a terrible movie to rewatch on the stream.
This one is Sword. This one's Sword and the Sorcerer. It stars Lee Horsley, who was Matt Houston, and Richard. I can't remember the guy's name. All of a sudden, but he was a classic villain guy. He plays the evil king, but the sorcerer, who is like a lizard-looking guy, is played by Richard Mall, who played Bull in Night Court.
That's cool. Yeah.
So it's really a fun movie. It is for adults, and it is. The last time I checked, it is actually on YouTube for free. So if anybody wants to watch it, Richard Lynch. Thank you, Chris P. Richard Lynch. I had Richard, but then I couldn't get a couple other ones out of my head.
Well, for tonight, we're not actually starting the book study tonight. The book study is going to start, as Al mentioned, 2 weeks from now. So not next Friday, but the Friday after that. And,
gives people a little time to get the book and read it.
And so tonight, what we're going to do is we'll talk about the importance of this book, because it really is a pretty pivotal book when it comes to the Star Wars mythos, certainly the EU mythos. And We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about how we're going to conduct the study a little bit. But go
before
ahead.
we get into that, I just want to say about the controversy you have found yourself in, thanks to your video. I did not see the video, but welcome to the dark side. But I always go into Joker territory when I go. I try to avoid it, but I just can't help but do it.
Your Sith becomes Joker.
Yeah.
So, first of all, the study's going to be a little different than usual. I'm going to try to avoid it being just story time with the Prof and Al, because I don't like it being sort of an excuse for people not to read the book. That's one thing. And the other thing is I start to feel pressured to make sure I'm retelling the whole story versus actually analyzing it, which is what I like to do. So Al and I will still do it conversationally, and we'll still both bring up things that we liked about it. But if you're kind of hoping to get the whole gist of the story just by listening into the study and not reading it, that'll be a little more difficult for you to do, because we're going to assume people have read it or listened to it. There is a wonderful, I saw somebody in the chat talking about it, a wonderful audio version that I know Al's going to use. It's by Daniel Davis. Niles from The Nanny, and he was in, of course, Star Trek as Moriarty and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So a great reader, and he does a wonderful job with this as well. All the voices. I'd be shocked if you couldn't find it for free somewhere on the internet. I haven't really looked there for myself. I just have it on my Audible app, but I'd be shocked if you couldn't find it somewhere for free. But then, of course, you can always buy the book too. This is I've got the actual old hardcover EU edition, but this is one of the books that Disney has re-released under their Legends banner. So it is quite easy to find, even if you just want to get, a re-release paperback. Of course, if you want to get the good old classic hardback, that's what you got there. So you've got 2 weeks to pick it up or pick up an Audible version of it, audio version. I think we're going to start with the prologue, which is just like a page or two, and then 4 chapters. I think that's doable, Al. It's about 50 pages in my book.
Oh, want to do four chapters?
Yeah.
Darn, I hedged my bet.
What did you think?
5.
Well, I mean, I'm open to doing 5. Do you think that's...
Well, I mean, that's just where I just happened to land. That's
I mean, it is 2 weeks.
It's page 74 on mine.
That's 60 pages on mine. Yeah.
It's up to you.
What is it? Anybody in the chat, and I know you guys are probably still kind of deciding if you're going to want to follow along with this or not. Some of you do have it. I see in the chat there. Oh, hello to my dear sound engraver too. She's driving home, I know.
This is the book you want to read. This is the book you want to read.
It is the book. So,
so just
for those of you in the chat who want to read it along with us, or are thinking about possibly reading it along with us, would you rather have 4 chapters or 5 chapters for the first 2 weeks? I'll say that you need at least the first 4 chapters to really kind of go through some beginning stuff and get us situated and established, so we've got a good stuff to talk about. But 5 chapters would be even better, but 4 chapters is doable. So if the chat has a preference, feel free to throw it out there. Change my chat from top chat to live chat. Slav said 5 is fine. All right, well, we'll go ahead and we'll say 5. There's always a chance that we'll just talk a lot about 4 and maybe kind of leave some of 5 to next week. Who knows?
So we'll leave chapter 6, the Hunter's Moon, for next.
Yeah, time. That'll be for the second study. But we still got 2 weeks for this. It'll be good. I don't know how long this they're definitely not going to be over an hour. That's about usually all the steam I've got anyway for a study like this. But occasionally they might be a little shorter, especially if Alyssa happens to have a fussy night or whatever, But things should be doing okay. So you're good with that? You're good with 5?
Sure.
All right. Now, before I talk about before I kind of give my introduction about the novel and Darth Plagueis, Al, I know that you're somebody who the only EU books you've read are the ones we've read together. Mm-hmm. In general, just what is your, just from, not from I don't think Disney, I know the Disney comic books have started to kind of play into maybe possibly having Palpatine be the one that had Anakin created or something like that. They're starting to hint like that in the Darth Vader comics or something. I know it's silly. But just as far as the movies and the EU books, what has been your understanding or knowledge or hints at all of Darth Plagueis? Like, what do you think about the character?
Well, from what I gather, uh, Darth Plagueis is the one that was playing around with eternal life,
Mhm.
making death non-existent. And of course, we got that. It was the hinting of that in Revenge of the Sith, and what kind of made Anakin go crazy because he didn't want to lose Padme and would do anything to keep her alive.
Yeah.
But I really don't know much more than that about Darth Plagueis. I do know that Sidious was his apprentice, so I'm assuming we will see how Sidious becomes the master
Mhm.
in this book, as opposed to just the apprentice.
Yeah.
Which is always fun. It's kind of fun to read the bad guys. We had a lot of fun doing the Bane trilogy.
Mhm.
And I hope maybe after this, although after this might be good to find a cheery book, a little more swashbuck, a little more buckle to the swash, and a little more heroic, heroic deeds, as opposed to delving into the dark side and the machinations behind the Empire.
Yeah, you're right. It is a darker book in that this is another Sith that we're following, but I really think it's just so pivotal to really understanding the greater mythos of Star Wars. Now, I'll explain what I mean there in a second. But you're right. So, in general, your average Star Wars, goer just, had that little snippet of Palpatine saying that to Anakin about the saga, or what do you say, the legend of Darth Sidious or whatever.
Mm-hmm. You call him Darth Plagueis the Wise?
Darth Plagueis the Wise. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Some people have heard that, and I've heard this from different people, say they kind of wish that Darth Plagueis had just been kept a legend. Just something like a story that maybe Sidious was using to manipulate, Anakin, like
a boogeyman.
Yeah, something like that. And I get the appeal of that, but I really do think you can kind of go down a rabbit hole of just like going to YouTube videos looking for theories about Darth Plagueis. I really do think, though, that Lucas had him in mind. I think that Lucas originally probably would have even had him in some of those prequel films. I think he is a character that Lucas had in mind as, Sidious's master at one point. But that being said, you can go down a lot of rabbit holes. I don't really recommend spending too much time doing that because you might end up spoiling some of the book if you're going to follow along with us. So, but you are right, Al, with the Darth Bane trilogy we've looked at, and if you've gone through, actually, you listened to some of the radio dramas of Tales of the Jedi,
right,
where we had Exar Kun and the other, I'm blanking on the other Sith master, but a lot of the old Sith, we had like sort of master apprentice relationships. Of course, Darth Bane, in that trilogy, we really got to see the interplay of when the apprentice rises up and overcomes the master between Darth Zena and Darth Bane.
That's when it became the rule of two, and there were only two.
Yeah.
Before that, the Sith were like Jedi, evil Jedi.
Yeah.
For the most part, there was a bunch of them, and But
yeah.
then it went down, and then it just got trimmed down to the two and only two.
Yeah, he started the rule of two, definitely. Now I see Slav mentioning that this book it really is one of the EU books that really does achieve sort of a literary stature, and I definitely agree with that. I do. I also see Al Simmons, Hellspawn, saying that Exar Kun was far more powerful than Darth Plagueis. Yeah, Plagueis, even though we're going to talk about him and really build him up as a central figure in the mythos, he's not the kind of Sith Lord that is a Darth Bane type, or certainly not an Exar Kun type. This is a very much a political thriller. Darth Plagueis is very powerful, obviously, but he's the kind of Sith that's really pulling strings behind the scenes, a lot of political machinations.
Yeah, his is the power of manipulation, and why get your hands dirty?
Yeah,
when you can have other people doing it for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I always when someone says, well, someone's more powerful or whatever, I always, I'm not going to say where the concept kind of originated, but it was a sitcom I watched a long, long time ago. But it doesn't matter how powerful someone is. It's the aura that they can give themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of like several steps from the sitcom thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you later.
Okay. And as I said, he's behind the scenes pulling strings, politically, as we'll see eventually Palpatine himself doing to become chancellor and then become emperor and so forth. But it's not just that. We know from Palpatine's words in Revenge of the Sith that this is somebody, Darth Plagueis is somebody also who's trying to manipulate the midichlorians themselves. Right. Now, I know that there are some people who just still don't like the idea of midichlorians. I don't think you could really delve.
Hand goes up.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you can keep delving into the EU without at least having to come to some sort of uneasy acceptance of them.
I accept it. I hate the name of it. I wish they would have been, I just wish they would have called it something else or left it an unnamed.
Well, it is very scientific sounding,
kind of a thing. Yeah, and I wish they had just kind of left it a little more voodoo.
Yeah, and some people, like you're saying, they think that it, which I agree, the name does give it a little bit more of a biological sound, and it does kind of take some of the mysticism out of the Force religion or whatever, or the Force idea.
Yeah, it makes it. It makes it a genetic thing rather than a spiritual.
And a lot of people think that, and I totally get that. I will say, though, if you really delve into the saga of Darth Plagueis, it becomes mystical once more. It becomes archetypal. A lot of people, they think it's kind of, it makes them sound smart to say that, because I think there's a lot of Christian symbolism, not just particularly Christian, but just sort of basic human symbolism of obviously a fall and a redemption and so forth. But we also see some of the archetypes and structures at play in the greater Star Wars mythos here with Darth Plagueis in particular, about some sort of creative force, a good creative force, and then an agent of that creative force that wants to manipulate it, wants to twist it, wants to, so a Satan in the Garden of Eden, basically. That's really what Darth Plagueis is archetypically. He's very much the serpent in the Garden of Eden trying to twist the force to his own purposes, and he wants to make this twisted, fallen version of it, which is what we see carried on throughout Palpatine and so forth. And because of that, we really do, especially with Anakin, that we know he's born of just the midichlorian. He's just born of a mother, not a father. Obvious Christ symbolism there. Yes, there is Eastern religion notes throughout the Force, obviously, but there's a reason that Eastern religions don't resonate in Western culture fundamentally as much as the Christian idea, because there's this. That's the foundation of Western civilization. That's the foundation of our culture of being selfless, of having to self-sacrifice and so forth. So you got Anakin. You can't deny he's sort of a Christ figure in that case. And you're going to see this developed a little bit more. I don't want to say too much about it, but if you did hear about any of the comics trying to say that maybe Palpatine was responsible for Anakin's creation or whatever, empty that from your mind immediately, because that's not the case here. What we have here is something so much more profound and so much more resonant in the good versus evil, the two forces, trying to, as the prophecy says, come to balance. And it also makes me realize there's this silly debate that goes along a lot of times, where people want to say, sometimes it's between people who side with the prequels and against people who side with the original trilogy. But there's this debate: is Star Wars Luke's story or is it Anakin's? And I think that's just such a silly debate, because you can't have it be one story without the others. It's very much Luke's story as the hero in the end, but you can't tell Luke's story without telling Anakin's story. And the two of them merge together into our old Adam, new Adam kind of Christ figure, archetype when it comes to the whole greater tale. And I might be speaking in sort of vague generalities, but that's because I don't want to spoil a lot of this stuff for the book.
It's it's a family. It's the Skywalker saga.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's the 9 movie
six
nine
movies.
six movies and some bad dreams, or the Skywalker saga. Though the universe is much more and grown since then. But
well, the cool thing about the EU that I always thought was so fascinating, and the more and more I dig into it, I'm just so blown over by, is that even when it goes way back into the history of the Jedi, where we are centuries removed from any of the Skywalkers, or even when it goes past that, with the Crucible was the last one written, even when it goes past Luke's days and whatnot, when they're all long dead, it thematically and oftentimes storyline directly, it all links back, and it's all oriented towards that Skywalker story. It's all oriented to Anakin and Luke bringing balance to the Force ultimately. Yeah, that's what I think you need to make a good Star Wars story with. It's
the seed, those original movies are the seed, and the tree has grown, the expanded universe, different branches here, but it all goes back to those roots.
Yeah, even when you're like reading some of the Boba Fett books and stuff like that, or books that are just about the gangster underground or bounty hunters or whatever, it's still got that overarching theme, that overarching limb. Like you said, yeah, they're hanging from that Skywalker theme limb, definitely. So, and you can't just tell stories about the Skywalkers and nothing. You do. The cool thing about the EU is that it fleshes things out so much more with other things and other elements of the universe. But I'm just saying that thematically, you've got that spine. I'll say that, as you were saying, Al, maybe next time we should read something a little swashbuckling. This book isn't as, it's not as adventurous as, say, like even the Darth Bane trilogy was. It doesn't have like a unity of time, a unity of action, a unity of, we've got a lot of different machinations. We are bouncing back and forth through time. In fact, it would be a really good experience if you wanted to read this Darth Plagueis with us and then go read the novelization of the Phantom Menace, because Darth Plagueis very much overlaps Phantom Menace. We are going to meet Padme. We're going to see Darth Maul. We're going to even see Anakin as a young child. This very much, Plagueis was alive and around a lot longer than you think he was, which is why a lot of people speculate that maybe Lucas had originally planned to have him in the Phantom Menace at some point in the background or looming around somewhere or something or another. So it's an interesting, that was a surprise to me when I first read it. I thought, wait a minute. Oh, I thought Darth Plagueis was long dead and then Palpatine does all these things, but it's pretty cool. And it makes you have a real, if anybody's here thinking that, Palpatine's, Sidious is the real bad guy, and you're thinking, well, all this focus on Plagueis is going to take away from Sidious, not at all. Because remember that however big and important Plagueis is, Sidious has to be that times 2 to be able to take it away from Sidious, or from Plagueis. So it's, again, without giving specifics, it's really well done.
I'm looking forward to. I've really enjoyed these, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not as negative. Well, I don't know how I want to say this. We have varying opinions on the Star Wars franchise, but I learned to. I really have love these. You were talking about the kind of book I was thinking of. I was saying something a little more swashbuckling. It's like the Kenobi book.
Yeah,
which I really love. Yeah, I really like that. Or Scoundrels. They're just a lot of fun, Yeah. But I do like these that really dig into the lore and how those kind of things came out. I dug Red Harvest too. That was dark.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah. Capsulon 44 is giving some background. There was some shenanigans with this book possibly being able to be published or not. He says George was at first against an origin story of Palpatine, which led to this book cancellation from beginning. It was going to be released in 2008, but then it was released in 2012. Yeah, I know that George wasn't sure if he wanted the specifics of this story kind of told. but I do know that George did have a Darth Plagueis character in mind who was linked to Sidious and was, so I think, like I said, if he was going to be in the movie at all, it would have been sort of a Easter egg, like looming in the shadows kind of thing. There, Lucas had something in mind for Plagueis. I don't know what it is. None of us ever do. And it might not have been much at all. But Lucino, is it Lucino or Lucino? I always don't know if I'm pronouncing his name wrong. James Lucino or Lucino. He really is a phenomenal writer. And like we've been saying, this book is really.
He did Kenobi too, didn't he?
No, that was Josh Jackson or.
Oh yeah. I think that's him.
Yeah, Josh Jackson Miller.
But we done one of Lucino's?
I don't think we've done one of Lucino's yet. He did.
I've seen his name.
Yeah, he did the. I think he did the really famous. He did the Rise of the Dark Lord, Darth Vader, which is really good. And I think he also did. No, he didn't do the Revenge of the Sith one, but he did Labyrinth of Evil. I'm looking at some of mine here that he's done. So he's done quite a few great ones. He's pretty big deal in the EU. You have to go get the last tape from the bathroom. You can go get the last one. And if those of you are like curious, like, why do you have tape in the bathroom? It's because I have to hide it from her. When I buy this big bag of it, she'll just like, pull it all out in 15 minutes.
And that's the reason you have to have so much, because she goes through it so much. Exactly. When you actually need it, you have to have something around.
I'm taking her back to her mother in the morning, which is why I don't mind her using the rest of it. Yes, we'll buy more tape. Do you see it there?
Tomorrow we'll go buy more tape.
Yes, that's right. Tomorrow we'll go buy more tape. You can use that. You can take it. That's good.
Yeah, as much as I like having stuff, and tape is just something when I need it, I can never find it.
Dollar Tree.
Yeah.
That and rubber bands.
Yeah.
That's why I bought a big bag of like 1,000 rubber bands. I think you've seen it. I've got this like whole big jar full of rubber bands and several others placed all over the place.
Yeah. Slav is saying George wanted to save Palpatine's backstory in the Underworld TV show. Never happened, and by that time he was wanting to sell the company. Yeah, that would have been a cool idea. Some of the things I heard about it, I don't know much about that. But one last thing here. Let me just so you kind of have a picture of Darth Plagueis. Let me share an image, which I guess you could do on your own.
He's a moon, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a moon. Which were the bankers of the Star Wars universe. If you watch Clone Wars, what the bankers frequently look like. Of course, they were in Revenge of the Sith and Attack of the Clones as well.
Mine reminds me of the Slender Man.
Yeah, very elongated and whatnot. This is a pretty cool piece of art here. Let's see. Okay, you can tell from the renditions of Darth Plagueis why a lot of people who were watching the Disney movies thought that Snoke's, and I think Abrams probably originally intended for Snoke's to be Plagueis or something like that, but that's where that came from.
Oh, I never thought about that.
And it's interesting being a moon. They're not exactly, at least to look at them, they don't look all that formidable. They're not a Shistavanian, or a
whatever Darth Maul is.
Oh yeah, the Zabrak from Dathomir. Yeah, something like that. I was trying to think of I'm blanking on his name. The bounty hunter, the lizard bounty hunter.
Bosk,
yeah. Not like one of his race or anything like that. So they and that's why they're bankers. And this fits perfectly for Darth Plagueis' character because he's very much you would never suspect him. Lord Damask. As he goes by, I'm just a simple banker. He almost reminds me a little bit, and I would be shocked if James Lucino didn't have this in mind a little bit. It's a little bit of Shylock from Merchant of Venice. I think there's a little bit of him in the character, not all the way as Shylock goes. There aren't the resonances, and the overtones of like Jewish prejudice and whatnot as there was, but it is there a little bit of his character. Yes, Alyssa, we will buy more tape on the shopping list tomorrow. Okay. You have to say it 3 or 4 times so she knows you're going to remember. Okay, so yeah, I'll stop sharing that. But yeah, he's a moon, and it's a pretty sweet character. I'm excited about this. I've
Mhm.
only read the novel through myself once, so and I went slow, and I went really trying to dig out of it as I can. But I'm really looking forward this time to reading it through my second pass, pulling out so much more than I did the first time, and really studying it. And also, for those of us who are writers, because I know a lot of writers, join these book studies. This is a very different kind of book to write. It's not like I said, you follow your one central character who's a hero facing all these adventures and challenges, even if it's a villain like Darth Bane. This is very much political intrigue. You're with these characters now. Now you're bouncing off to this perspective, so it's omniscient third person narration. You have these certain set perceptions that you're going into. Obviously, Plagueis, Palpatine, I think Darth Maul, if I'm remembering correctly, and so yeah, it's pretty fascinating. I'll be excited to see what you think of it, Al, and then interested to see what the chat thinks as we go through it.
Mm-hmm.
If I can find a link anywhere to the audio version online, I will share it on my community tab. But it's just, what is it? It's like, it's not that expensive on Audible if you want an audio version. The paperback itself is probably like under $10 on Amazon. I know people, you're tight, you don't have a lot of money to spend, but it's such a good investment, because this really is a pivotal. If you love Star Wars, especially if you love the EU, this is a very pivotal book to the overall Star Wars mythos. Like, you look at all the EU books, there are some very good books, but still aren't all that important to the overall EU story. This one, as it was written and developed, and as it played out, tapped into the EU, what came before, and pushed into what came after. It really truly is just a crucial cornerstone. It's so fun. At least this is my argument for it, and we'll see if you guys agree with me as we go through. So that's pretty much all I had to say about it, introduction wise. I'm gonna poke through the chat here a little bit, but did you have any responses to that or any other thoughts on it, Al?
No, I'm just looking forward to doing this. You and your real life job and all, and your upcoming marriage getting in the way of our book studies.
I know. How dare me? It's true.
I mean, really.
Yeah. Having to work all these kind of extra tutoring and writing and teaching jobs, and paying for that wedding.
But seriously, I'm looking forward to getting back into it, and it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, like I said, it's one of the Legend re-releases. So if push comes to shove, you can at least have to buy that, garbage version. But it's the same story inside. It's just you have to put up with Disney's nonsense Legends banner. But I've been building my collection. I need to get back into it because it's it'll take me a lot. And some books are kind of hard to come by. But this one wasn't one of the very difficult ones to find. I mean, you can go to Second Sale or any of the used eBay, any of the used book places online that are reputable, and you can find this.
I have sadly found eBay and Second Sale where you can get a free book if you buy 3, and why not? I've got 4 books on the way.
There you go. Lynn Green said
including a Hallmark book.
Oh gosh, that's perfect for you though. That's perfect.
It's the cat book that had Brandon Routh, so it has a Superman lineage to it.
7 degrees. Right?
It's 7 degrees of Superman.
Lynn Green said you have to kick me out of the He-Man Woman Haters Club now since I'm getting married. Sound Engraver is worth it. She is worth it.
Well, you know what? I'm sure she would say you're worth it as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would.
We're just that sickening.
I'm sure she would.
The Sentinel said Palpatine isn't Anakin's daddy. Neither is Plagueis. The midichlorians are why. Read the book to find out. Yeah, I won't tease any more than that, but it's it really does play into this profound theme and archetype of good versus evil, kind of the Garden of Eden structures at work. It's pretty fun. Pretty cool. All right. So that's what I got for you tonight. Short stream tonight. Like I said, these in general won't go over an hour. And, we're about a half hour here, a little over. So, I just wanted to tease it. I wanted to give people the pitch, tell you why it's so fun, why you definitely want to grab a copy and join us with it. But we'll go over them as usual, and we'll have a lot of fun doing it. Starting 2 weeks from tonight. So, again, not next Friday. Al is most likely doing a live rewatch on his channel. Yeah.
I'll do something next Friday, even if it's not a real. We'll see what goes on.
And you've got to rewatch tomorrow night.
Yes,
And
tomorrow night. Support your local sheriff.
I am going to absolutely do everything in my power to get my stream started tomorrow night closer to 9, so I'm not overlapping with you or anything like that. But I never go more than an hour anyway. It's just difficult because Saturday nights I get back from mass because I do the vigil mass and then I clean and I need a desperate nap. And but I do want to do a live stream because I want to talk about this nonsense with YouTube taking my video down and whatnot, and talk about some other things too. Cross-racial casting has been a topic that people wanted me to address, and so we'll talk about that a little bit too, probably. So,
like I said, don't forget to check out my 10-word review on the Spider-Verse movie.
Oh,
I think the professor would appreciate it.
Probably, but I'm just ignoring that thing. But yeah, I'm sure I probably would. So yeah, check out Al's channel. Give it a sub if you haven't already. That's all for us. I see you just popped in, Al, or AL. I'm sorry, Al. AL. But good to see you there, and you too, Ed Star. Great to see you as well there. Just some people.
There's lots of Al's going. There's AL, and then there's Al Simmons. Al's rule the world.
Holocron Jedi. So yeah, thanks for hanging out. You can watch the replay if you missed any of it, and I'll be back tomorrow. Al will be on his channel tomorrow, and we'll come back for the book study in 2 weeks from now. So we'll hope to see you then.
Okay. Bye, tape.